Hi, it's Mrs. Scarple, and last chapter, chapter 1, we were solving equations. So in this chapter, we're going to be solving inequalities. So just to let you know, an equivalent inequality or equivalent inequalities are inequalities that have the same solution. And we use those because just like when we're solving equations, what we do to one side of an equation, we have to do to the other side to keep it balanced. And the same thing happens with inequalities. So you'll see that we have 4 different statements down here, but it's all, I'm adding c to one side, so I have to add c to the other in every single one of these. It doesn't matter if it's greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. If you're solving an inequality, what you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. So let's take a look at what this is going to look like for us. So in this first example, we have x minus 5 is less than negative 3. Well, if it were equal, you would tell me, well, we have to add 5 to each side. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to add 5 to each side of the equation. That's going to leave me with x and 2, but it's going to be a less than rather than an equal to. Now when I graph it, let's see, I need to have at least a 2. We'll go a few numbers on either side of the 2. Because it is less than, that means I'm not including the 2. So if I'm not including the 2, when I go to graph it, I want to have an open circle. I don't want to fill it in. So at 2, I'm going to have an open circle. And then from that open circle, I want all values of x. So I want all values that are going to be less than 2. So I need to draw an arrow from that open circle to represent all of the values that are going to be less than 2. So all of the values less than 2 are going to go to the left of 2. Now, it will look like this. So we have an open circle at 2 and all of the values to the left. So now is your opportunity to try one yourself. M minus 3 greater than or equal to 5. Now that you've had a chance to try this one, hopefully what you did was add 3 to each side so that you ended up with m is greater than or equal to 8. Now because this is greater than or equal to, I'm going to have a filled in or solid circle on my 8 because I'm including the 8. When I say greater than or equal to, I'm including the 8, and I want the values that are more than 8. So that's going to be to the right of 8. Our next example is the subtraction property of inequality. So if you subtract on one side, you subtract on the other side. It doesn't matter if you've got a greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. What you do on one side of the equation, you need to do on the other. So if we have s plus 18 is greater than or equal to 21, I'm going to be subtracting 18 from each side. So we're going to have s is greater than or equal to 3. So to have some numbers on my number line, it's equal to 3. So I want to have a solid or filled in circle on my 3. And I want my arrow, I want that to be in green. And I'm going to have my arrow, because I want values that are greater than 3, my arrow will go to the right. So a solid circle on 3, arrow to the right, because my variable is greater than 3. So here is your chance to try one. Negative 5.2 greater than x plus 2. Now that you've had an opportunity to try, let's see how you did. Subtract 2 from each side. And we end up with negative 7.2 is greater than x. So because I have 7.2, it's okay to have on my number line numbers like 7.0, and I'm going to skip because of the decimals. I'm going to go by 0.2s on my number line. This is not equal to, so this will not be a filled in circle. It will be an open circle, but be careful because our variable is on the right side this time, so make sure you're reading it carefully. This is saying our values have to be less than, our values are going to be smaller than negative 7.2. And I just realized this is negative 7.2, and I numbered my number line as if it were positive. So I need to redo my number line because that's not the way it would be numbered if it is negative. So if I have a negative 7.2, which I will put at that circle, negative 7.2, then this would be negative 7.0 to the right of it, and negative 6.8 to the right of that, and negative 7.4 would go to the left of it, and negative 7.6 to the left of that. So if I want values that are less than negative 7.2, my arrow will go to the left, because left and less than, that's how I like to stress it, left and less than. The last thing we're going to look at is a word problem. Because yes, we do have word problems with inequalities. A circuit overloads at 1800 watts of electricity. That's some very important information there. At 1800 watts of electricity. You plug a microwave oven that uses 1100 watts of electricity into the circuit. Write and solve an inequality that represents how many watts you can add to the circuit without overloading the circuit. So if it overloads at 1800 watts of electricity, that means we can use less than 1800 watts. Because if it equals 1800 watts, then it's going to overload. And we know that the microwave uses 1100 watts. So we know we're using that much. And then it's saying how many watts you can add. So I'm going to have plus W to the circuit without overloading it. So this is writing the inequality. This is what it means to write an inequality, and solve an inequality is now what I'm going to do next. So I'm going to solve for W by subtracting 1100 from each side. So that means we can have less than 700 watts added to the circuit. So if we can have less than 700 watts added to the circuit, In addition to the microwave oven, which of the appliances can you plug into the circuit at the same time without overloading it? So if we look at our list of appliances, which ones would give us less than 700 watts? Well, it wouldn't be the toaster because that's at 800. It wouldn't be the hot plate because that's at 1200. We could have the blender. And we could have the clock radio. Because they are both under 700 watts, and even combined, we're at under 700 watts. So here is just a brief review of solving inequalities using addition and subtraction.